Welcome back to Candid Conversations.
Welcome back.
Candace, today we have another guest. Our guest is a good friend of ours that we've known for a long time.
It is, and I think it's our first male guest that we've had
It
on
is,
Candid Conversations
absolutely.
on Leadership.
Yeah, so this is like a big moment. Our first four guests were all women leaders here at the university. So Robert, you're our first male guest.
Tough acts to follow because I admire all those women you had on the show.
Absolutely. So let me give our listeners and viewers a little introduction of you, Robert. Dr. Robert Baird is the Senior Associate Director of Educational Partnerships at the Center for Innovation in Teaching and Learning and an adjunct lecturer in the College of Media at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. He has extensive experience with the educational technologies and teaching and learning support. His 1995 dissertation explored how film viewers can be frightened and startled by film scenes that they know are fictional. He has worked as an assistant film editor in Hollywood, published essays on literature, film, and cognition, and been a soccer player and coach for over 30 years. Welcome to the show, Robert.
You know, it's an honor, and it's so fun to be here with friends and colleagues and people. You both have had instrumental roles on sort of leadership and just making a great community on our campus. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. So jump in and tell us about your career journey and kind of what you've learned about leadership along the way.
No, I like that you share those questions because it makes you think and try to create a coherent narrative about your life. You know, I had little bits of stories, and so I think I've got like 3 or 4 little steps there. One, I grew up in Oklahoma and kind of first-gen student and grandparents Dust Bowl Okies, and so for me, school was. And back then, you could go to school and just because your friends and girlfriend went, and it cost and things. And I went to Oklahoma State, and I just went to school because they were going. I liked to read and had some ideas, but I never thought academia would be a career for me. Mm-hmm. But by the time my senior year as an undergraduate, I realized, I kind of like this stuff. And part of it was I had an early mentor. Mentors are so important. It was a Harvard-trained professor who had been an officer in Vietnam in the Marines, and documentary storytelling and folk arts and culture. And he was one of these people. I realized it wasn't just me. There were hundreds of, I was an undergraduate at the time. It was like, no, you were going to help me with the professional academic conference on campus as an undergraduate. Peter Rollins, he was amazing. And so, he mentored. And so I was like, academia is interesting. But I was studying English and cinema and media. And it was like, I've, like a lot of Okies, we had to go to California. So my wife had an accounting degree, thankfully. And so we drove out to Hollywood with no jobs in 2 cars that barely made it over the Continental Divide. And she got a job at an accounting firm that was doing the books for Canon Films, which is kind of a strange, legendary, amazing place to work. And so I got a job there. So we had 3 great years in LA in the early 80s. The Olympics were there. We lived in Santa Monica like we were students and biked around and saw things. But I remember sitting in one of the cars, the red Volkswagen van, made it over the Continental Divide, barely. But I was at lunch, sitting out, eating my lunch and reading some books. I was, okay, Hollywood's fun and interesting, but I think we were getting more serious about maybe a family. And I was thinking, we kind of like the Midwest and academia, and I want to go to grad school. So we kind of came to grad school, and similarly had a great mentor here. Bob Carringer was a professor who, at the time at U of I, a lot of cinema was taught in the English department. It still is, but all over the place. It was quite a scholarly community. And it was like, okay, I like academia, but it was almost like the first time, you could become a professor. It was like, me, and it was cinema and media and cognition and psychology and all that. But Bob was a great mentor, but I had worked for like a year on potential PhD thesis, and it was kind of how film can teach us about teaching, by looking at remakes and things like that. And Bob said, well, you're never going to get a job if you do kind of a teaching-focused dissertation. It has to be more of a research, hardcore thing. So that dissertation, I was like devastated because it was still a good idea, my original idea, but it was like, no, you got to do this. And it was like, so I had to reinvent myself on this more scholarly dissertation, and I threw myself into it, and it was a great decision. And then I, finished the PhD, moved fast because I had a family and needed to move fast and didn't want to take 8 years on the PhD. And the other big milestone was, went on the job hunt and got a job back. This was when very hard, difficult to get a job in English cinema media. And I turned down a job offer on the East Coast at Sacred Heart University. And Dick Wheeler at the time, head of English, called me into the office. Like, Robert, what are you doing? And I think what happened was I decided people fall in love with the town and the college town in Urbana-Champaign. And I decided maybe I could be an academic professional and not a tenure track professor. And so then, 30 years later, I've been an academic professional and teaching and learning technology. And some of my articles still get cited every year, every month, and I embrace the academic professional thing.
So you've mentioned that there were several great mentors along the way. You mentioned Bob, there are other name drops. What are those essential skills for leadership that made that person so great?
Again, it's this theme of surprise. Somebody lets you know and surprises you that you could do that or you could be that. Because I don't know, I was talking with my wife earlier. Hey, I'm doing the leadership show today. And she rose to a level of chief financial officer for United Way at the end of her career. And she said, I didn't try to be a leader. You go through these little journeys where you need to be a leader. People reach out to you and you want to make things work and you want to support people. So yeah, I think mentors see something about you before you do and open your eyes to something and then support you to make it happen. Because even if you say, oh yeah, I agree, I'm going to try to do this, they coach you and mentor. When I was doing that academic conference, it's like, okay, you need to do this and do that and follow me and look at this. And then you roll up your sleeves and start to work. But that belief in somebody that's junior or younger, and in your mind, you're I'm light years away from that journey, but it's let's fire up the rocket engine and let's do it. Like, whoa.
So you've been here, you said, about 30 years. How would you describe your leadership style and how has it evolved over those 30 years?
Yes. I have a circuitous career path. And, if you have an English degree, many people have a circuitous path. And so I do a lot of coaching and support for parents and young people and students and undergrads and grads here, letting them know that just because, it's a little intimidating to say you can do 1,000 things, but what am I going to do? So that's part of it, changing path and going a little bit what you love and you like, and then what you're surprised about, and navigating that is, I think, better, but it's also harder than my dad was this type of doctor and I'm going to be that type of doctor, and my uncle's that, which is great. And I think even within that path, you'll make your own way. But so the diversity of choices and options there. And then I think, old school humanities, social science degree. I mean, I make the joke with, all you can do with a humanities degree is write and think and be critical and be creative and do teamwork and translate for people and have ideas and no BS when you see it and know history. And I mean, that's all you can do with it.
All great leadership skills, right? Yeah.
On our campus, we, at the IT leadership workshop, we identify and we develop leaders in IT fields or IT adjacent fields. And I've had the pleasure of being able to facilitate ITLW, is how we refer to it on our campus, for years and years and years. And so what have you observed about our emerging leaders on our campus?
I was thinking about that because we were in an ITLW planning meeting this morning, and we had a great conversation about our new cohort, and we have a good community here. So I think that's what I've noticed. I think leadership in general is, business schools always talked about it, but I think that when we first started, it was, IT staff in higher ed should be leaders and think about leadership and organizational behavior. I mean, maybe the CIO is supposed to do that. And then we, of course, adopted what we were inspired by, that leaderful community. Everybody needs to be a leader. So I think we actually have I do some BTAA stuff, and I'm sure you all do too. And I think we actually have a great community here. But I think the challenges of technology and jobs and careers and pandemic and post-pandemic and federal response to higher ed these days creates lots of challenges. I think we still have the thing in IT where I'm going to be a good database person. I'm going to be, good at this and great at that. And I think it's still this cycle of, hey, you could be a manager, you could be a leader. And back to that surprise I was talking about earlier that, I could be a leader, and I thought I was just going to do my job really well.
A little follow up on that. What do you see? You mentioned the federal challenges and just sort of the environment that's not particularly friendly to higher ed right now. What do you see the role of IT leaders in helping the universities kind of get through all of that?
I'd start at home. You want to be healthy. Even if you're going through struggles or, battles, you still need to be motivated and take care of yourself and be healthy and have friends and colleagues and recharge your batteries and be motivated. So that's the first thing. You need to stay positive even when things are very negative. I mean, that's another theme I have. I think ask about my leadership style. I've always leaned into the nice guy and the Ted Lasso. I'm a youth soccer coach. That's my style, empathy, the potential of others. That said, if you go that route, you do need to show people you can be tough and that you're not naive. I'd say community is really important. I wouldn't give up. I'd keep fighting the good fight about what we believe in academia of free inquiry and everybody has value and the diversity of our students and our staff and our people are essential, even if some people for the moment don't think that's true.
So I want to jump back to some of the content that you present at ITLW at that IT leadership workshop. And I saw that you brought some props here today. And the reason why I wanted to mention this is that you always surprise me. We would co-present together and I would go, is that a tree? And you just pull out a prop or something will come out of your pocket. So can you tell me a little bit more about the content that you shared over the years? And Chris may have some more specific questions, but.
Yeah, it's been fun. I'll bring in books on pigeons. I've got Andrew Bleckman's Pigeons, the fascinating saga of the world's most revered and reviled bird. And I'll bring that in. I've brought in little clippings from my Dawn Redwood in the backyard. And it's come out of my style of my role as an academic professional on campus who's supposed to talk to teachers and TAs and students in all disciplines. And so even though I have this cinema, English, humanities degree, most of the time I'm reading science. And so I have an academic specialty and I can do some things fairly well, but I'm a curious generalist. I really, I can talk to chemistry profs and folks and in business and in dance and fine arts and everything. And I'm just fascinated by these things. And for natural history, there's a whole subgenres of books about birds and animals and plants and life and stuff. And they provide analogies for leadership, organization, humans. We've always been interested in animals and trickster figures and stories and from cave paintings to now. And because we're part of nature, even though we dress up and think that we're not at times. So, but in particular on pigeons, I was really interested in this book because it's built into the title there. If you're in New York City and somebody's throwing something at a pigeon and they don't like it and it's a rat with wings, and then you're reminded that the mourning dove is the symbol for God and the United Nations and world peace. So which is it?
Yeah.
And so I think for life and leadership, it's, how do you look at something, right? If something can be both reviled and transcendent at the same time, it's a good lesson to maybe check how you look at the world and things and people. Growing up in Oklahoma, from where I grew up, kind of really liked the underdog and the scrappy one that keeps fighting, and pigeons are that too. So I will say, with all the love of pigeons, at the back of the book, I was surprised this morning. There's a recipe for pigeon pie. So
juxtaposition.
I mean, so whatever. And but another shout out just because I love it. This is a new book, The Light Eaters, How the Unseen World of Plant Intelligence Offers a New Understanding of Life on Earth by Zoe Schallinger. And this is New York Times bestseller and podcasts and stories. It's great. But, you grow up thinking, I know what a carrot is and I know what a tree is. And a lot of the science in the last 10 years, some of the stuff you've read about of plants communicating some way with another plant, how, and the scientists right now, they have no idea how they're doing it. So the world's a curious place.
Yeah, I've heard that story about the pigeons a lot because you've used it in our ITLW program, and I'll admit I'd never see a mourning dove or a pigeon the same way since hearing that, and it's like the philosophy of the pigeon, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Let's kind of jump into your subject matter expertise. You've been here at the Center for Innovation in Teaching and Learning for a number of years and have witnessed a lot of change in academic technology. What do you see as like what's on the horizon for academic technology?
I've been it's been fun and blessed to be part of this institution and kind of 3 or 4 waves of technology. When I came here, like 3 months later, I got email for the first time. And then I walked, at some point I walked over to what used to be a Line Hall in the basement and saw a thing called Mosaic playing for real. And, we had Play-Doh and things like that before. So I was there for the early days. And one of the first workshops I did when I moved from, some of this was in the English department, helping with technology and big screen TVs in rooms and things like that, and the early web pages and things like that. I moved to the Center for Educational Technologies, which was housed in the Armory. And our first summer faculty training camp for a week was on the idea that what if a professor in any field actually had a desktop computer? Wouldn't they need training on how, I mean, not just computer science or business or accounting, but it was like, no. And that was the first wave I saw. And then next we were sitting here with the first learning management systems on campus. And our campus, again, proudly invented some things, Mallard and other things. And we were running the first learning management systems over here out of little rooms in the Armory when, we sort of knew what we were doing. But when at the time the learning management system kind of went down for 3 days, it was like, you all are moving into central IT because ed tech has gotten big and it's gotten bigger ever since. And then,
go from startup to enterprise really quickly.
Yeah. And so then I got the great experience to be in central IT and be sort of the odd people out because we were the teaching and learning training folks. And of course VR came but yeah, AI is the big thing. You guys are doing a great job and we're exploring it. I think AI is going to remind us and help us redefine what it is to be human. So I think that's.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean? What do you mean about that? This is a topic that's really close to my heart. So
yeah, no,
I'd love to hear your perspective.
We're fortunate at this same location to interview undergrads and grad students and professors about AI, and I think the ones that are sort of a little further ahead. And the amazing thing I'm seeing is I haven't even met an undergrad who doesn't have a sophisticated appreciation and knowledge and use case for AI, as in they use it in multiple ways. I don't want to use it for that. I like to use it for this. I love it for that. I'm thinking about my career. And so they, they're adapting to it smartly, and not just the artists, but a lot. I know there are disciplinary differences. If you're in computer science or engineering, everybody's using. And for many reasons, but even some of the engineers will say the same thing the artists will. Well, at this stage of my thinking and brainstorming and ideation, I don't want it to push me a direction I don't want to go. And a lot of the more sophisticated uses all the way up to grad school and people working on their PhDs are prompting AI to be the 24 hours a day, months-long tutor, advisor. I've got a great advisor. I've got peers. I've got colleagues. I can look stuff up. But this thing, I can be jogging and it's having debates with me about my work I want to do. And then writing, I've helped done a lot of writing and composition courses and things like that, and been part of that community on campus. Great experience. We have a writing across the curriculum. Another thing, this campus is amazing. Some of our writing programs in physics and others are like nationally known. And for writing and AI, that's the big question. AI, the good thing is AI exposed some of the worst writing assignments. If you ever taught composition or rhetoric classes, and then you go to 4th of July parties or graduate, and people will say, "Oh, you're the guy that taught made me write that summary essay that I hate." So that's the good thing about AI. It kind of blew up the types of assignments we should never have been doing, because you shouldn't. And this, I tell faculty this: you shouldn't write something have your students write something unless you want to read it, TAs want to read it, other people in the class read it. If not, the whole world reads it. So that's, don't have them write something that's just going to be graded. That's not writing. That's just.
It reminds me, I used to TA Rhet 105, the Rhetoric 105, which is the intro composition that people take, and they had to take it when they came here, even if they couldn't write. That was probably the worst semester of my life, reading how people never learned how to write and they got at the university. Aside.
I noticed that your banner photo and your LinkedIn profile is I believe, a photo of your grandkids. And it's really obvious that family is important to you. So how do you find balance between your work and personal life?
I don't.
Okay, tell me more, because I love when we squash balance.
Well, no, that's a standard thing. And I deeply appreciate what it means by that balance, because things are out of whack and people need to be better. But the reason I left Hollywood, and the reason I turned down the tenure track job, and the reason I'm sitting here today is because family comes first. And that doesn't mean I didn't throw myself into my career and make a living. But we like Midwestern college towns, and we chose to be here. And I think in the end, I didn't do tenure track, even though I could have. I know it's a podcast too, but here's I feel bad because I need to change LinkedIn, because that was only the 3 grandsons, and there's my granddaughter.
Aww, cute.
And
Very cute.
So define cuteness.
Adorable.
Yeah, we have adorable. No, they're sitting on my wife's lap and mine, and my daughter-in-law Megan's a great photographer. So there's a nice little picture. Yeah, family comes first. It's the earth, and I think my career is a moon that's orbiting the earth. And I think some of it, the biggest mentor in my life was my grandmother, who was literally a Dust Bowl Okie, 3rd grade education. And I was the oldest son. I had a brother, and my parents were factory workers. And I helped my grandma take care of kids, day school stuff at her house. I think that's, and then I'm a kid soccer coach and a teacher and a manager. And my Clifton Strengths Quest #1 thing is seeing the potential of others and being supportive. So that's my style.
Sometimes your work has to be priority, though, right? We're getting paid to do a job. So how do you strike? I don't want to use the word balance, because we try to quash the word balance around here. But how do you address the conflict when it occurs?
Well, once you've established what your priorities are, then you realize, I want to be the best I can at the career path I've chosen, and I want to be successful for my family and me, and I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to bring hopefully integrity and creativity, the skills you have, whatever they are, you're going to work hard at it. So it's not that you shirk or don't care. It's like, I think being honest that in my case, that family is my important thing, frees me up, gives me a foundation, and frees me up to at work. Okay, let's go. Let's do it, and let's bring all those skills I have to work. So
maybe it focuses you at work, because you don't want to be spending extra time doing your job. You'd rather spend that extra time with your family.
Well, I'll go back to that earlier story of being in grad school about how fast I went on the PhD. I went fast, and it was because of my family and my good colleague Seamus Riley, who's president at Carl Sandburg College now and had been at Parkland for a while, an English degree too. Guess who else went fast and had 4 kids? And we went fast, but you know what? That doesn't mean it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so family, that's the other side of it. Family drove me with the dissertation, to move faster, be smarter, be quicker, because, it's like I'm out hunting and gathering, and I've got mouths to feed, right? So
So you mentioned that you've played soccer. You've also been a youth soccer coach. Can you tell me, or tell us and our listeners, more about what are those personal routines or personal habits that you have that contribute to your success?
Yeah, I think everybody has to find something physical, kinesthetic, that for stress in their life. And I know I have a kind of a sports background, but it's also when I was in getting the graduate school and English degree stuff, I was with some wonderful people who didn't do high school sports or any of that. They got to grad school and it's like we're doing volleyball and basketball and frisbee golf. And some of them now have run, 50 marathons. It's ridiculous. But in grad school, it's like, no, I wasn't into sports, but the stress of grad school and adult life, you got to walk, you got to do something. So, are things that just give you pleasure. Gardening is the biggest hobby sport in the world, and that, but finding things that help you break the stress and energize you, music, poetry, helping others. But I do think for career, sometimes you're tied to a desk or something, and the stress of it, and email and all the things that can happen, finding that outlet for you, whether it's walking or biking or even little things, flying a kite, anything, is very, very important.
In our the leadership program that we help facilitate, feedback is a central theme of value in growing as a leader. So is there an example of a piece of feedback that you got along your career that was really tough to take, but ultimately made you better?
I have 12. We could start with the first one.
Let's do that.
Let's do one or two. That'd be great. Yeah.
No, my wife taught me a lot about leadership in life, and Kathy, when she says it and your colleagues say it and your direct reports say it, so I can talk a lot. So, as you well know, and I still talk too much, but so listening. And I think the only thing and so that was hard to hear it at first because, some of my talking is to support others and support the cause and the team and the project. And so you take everything personally. So I've spent a lot of time trying to listen more and turn my talking into finding out about other people, because that's the real power in the world, is to talk to other people. And I think I'm kind of radical on that. I know sometimes they talk about introverts and extroverts, but and you're just a nice guy and you like to talk to people and you like to talk. Well, no, any person you talk to on this planet, you're going to learn something, and they have information, intel and ideas and creativity. And I've talked to homeless folks for 15 minutes and they've taught me great lessons about life. So it's okay to talk to people.
Yeah. So what's number 9?
Talk less, smile more. What else we got?
Yeah, the other thing is the things that come natural to us, we think everybody else does them too. So when you overdo the thing that comes natural to you, you're surprised that you're not thinking the way I am. So just having lots and lots and lots of ideas every minute is just something that comes easy to me. And, most of them are strange and weird and wrong, but some of them are okay, pretty good. But you then you assume everybody's that way, and then that was the great experience of the ITLW and being through that, and Clifton Strengths, to see that Robert needs a planner. Robert needs people that can strategize. Yeah. Robert, I'm known upstairs. Chilan will tell you, who I work with for many years. Robert, you got. I need somebody to task orient me. And some of that is I lean into improv. Even in things I love, like coaching kids in soccer, it's like I have to write a paper plan, and then I can improv all for 3 weeks straight. But it does help to, even if you're more entrepreneurial, to be a planner. And I guess it goes vice versa there. If you're a planner, try to improv for moments at a time and adapt. It's a theme we have when we're talking to TAs and teaching. One of the things we all see is sometimes you're a little too rigid to, well, here's the plan for the class today. But any teaching, coaching, workshop, podcast is a performance. And so you sort of need to go, they're really bored with that, and I was going to spend 15 minutes on it. And it's like, no, let's wrap that up. And so it's always a performance. And, you could have the same lesson at 10 o'clock, and at 2 o'clock, it's just going to play different. And so it's some balance of
I have to share this. One of my favorite parts of our ITLW planning meetings is actually watching you on the Zoom screen because I can tell when there's a Robert Baird idea about to be thrown out into the, there's a look you get on your face. I'm like, oh, Robert's got a good idea here, and we're gonna go down this rabbit hole for a while. But I love it because you make us think differently.
No, well, thank you, but yeah, no, we've got quite a team there, so it's everybody contributes, and that leaderful community, and that's the other big takeaway. A meeting of 3 or a meeting of 12, everybody. Candace, you're great at that. Both of you have. Well, let's hear from so and so before they leave the meeting today, because we want to hear from everybody, right?
So I've had I mentioned it earlier, pleasure of facilitating with you for over the years, and it's congratulations again on the upcoming retirement. But as you approach retirement, are there other nuggets of advice that you would give your younger self? So if you think back to coming from Hollywood and about to go back into the Midwest, what would you tell yourself then?
Buy more Apple stock would be the first one.
Yes, great.
That's good advice.
Yeah. Not now. This is 1980.
You should probably wait 3 months on any stock movement right now. Yeah, no, I know it resonate with you, but whatever play more music. For me, music or whatever, but there's things that people say, oh, we should do that, and you hear this when people pass away or get sick or move on or something, and they are those things. Well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do, and then you wait a week, and so just lost somebody in our family around music, and it's like, oh, I'm going to go play with you more, and it didn't do that, and so maybe fight for those things that you really shouldn't be putting off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say for the younger self too, listen more. Another theme I wanted to say, I do believe in the balance thing and the yin yang thing and the, what's your strength? And over again, I think you should embrace your strengths, but then you want to see when that strength can be overplayed. So, I am a good talker and I do have ideas. And so where is that a problem? We use the metaphor of seeing two sides of the coin, but that only two sides of a coin can be kind of a binary where people are yelling at each other and fixed in their ways. But I think if you're a thoughtful leader and you have this balance as a leader or a teacher or anybody that cares between confidence and humility / doubt, that's super powerful. And you see too many people sort of fall into one of those. And I think it's always, like minute by minute. And some of the best researchers and teachers and thinkers I've seen, I'm very, very confident and I say this, and then 5 minutes later I can say, well, I don't know, maybe that's not right. And we've been saying that for 1,000 years. So that back and forth is very powerful.
So in the spirit of Candid Conversations, what is something that most people don't know about you?
If I'm at a mall and you're on by one of those...
What's a mall?
A mall? That's a place where people used to go and shop for things.
That's okay.
Yeah. It was before Amazon. You might have heard of it. But I'm afraid of heights. Mm-hmm. So, I'm kind of sporty spice and all that, but I'm afraid of heights and claustrophobia. So, I'll tie that to national parks. I'm at the Grand Canyon. Oh my gosh. And it's like, oh my gosh. And Mammoth Caves. It's like, no, I'm not going to crawl through that tiny little thing that's only like, it's a giant room on this side and you go through 1 foot and a giant room on the other side. No, I'm not going through that.
Before Candace brings us home, I have to satisfy curiosity. Why do people get scared at frightening movies, even though they know it's fiction?
Basically that you see this phenomena of our minds doing multiple things at once. And that's kind of the common thinking now about our minds, which is I can be thinking about the director and whether she's going to win an Oscar and the popcorn's not as warm as I wish it was. And you're still in the story and your sort of survival instincts and methods, spatial awareness is still going. And the startle, and so those things are going on simultaneously. And that's why you can be startled. There's a lot more to it. And then thinking about startle effects in your life. Maybe you've been at a shopping mall with a mannequin, and then I thought it was real. You get startled by little things that don't just make loud noises and stuff. Startle responses, all mammals and many insects have the startle response, and humans have it. And we know the world's not real. So But basically, the idea that even if you're at a movie, even like right now, you're constantly monitoring space. We only see things we don't, and it's a limited view of the world, and you're always monitoring it for, what's alive and what's not, what's animate and inanimate, what's a threat and what's not a threat, where the floor is, where the ceiling is, and it makes kind of sense for an organism on the planet to be ready to be, but we're always monitoring that, and that's where art comes in, because every television theater and stuff uses off-screen space. You're only ever seeing in a painting or a photograph or television part of the picture, and your mind is filling in the rest. I had a whole chapter on Jurassic Park at the time. Spielberg had unlimited resources for the early computer animatronics and all this, and it's a movie, and at one point we're watching a plastic cup with water in it. We've got all that budget and dinosaurs. Why are we doing that?
But you know exactly what's happening outside.
Yeah, because it's over here, and it's what they call an art. Whether you're a poet or a filmmaker, you're the viewer's share. You're getting the viewer, the listener, the watcher to create in his or her mind, which is still the most powerful industrial light illuminator.
Thank you for indulging me. And Candace, you
So
can bring us all
speaking of
home.
that,
Yeah.
finally, what would you like our viewers and listeners to take away from this conversation?
I think if you're grounded in empathy and love, you'll be okay.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert, so much for joining us today. Yeah. So good to kind of have this chat with you. And even though I've known you for a long time, I learned a lot. And I'm sure our viewers and listeners are going to love the conversation.
Same.
My pleasure. Thank you.